If every man suddenly disappeared, what would happen to the world? You joke, but back in the 70s and 80s there were billboards that would say cancer cures smoking. A bit controversial, but I remember being shocked even as a kid. I didn't understand it, and my dad explained it, because if you smoke too much you get cancer and then you die and then you're no longer smoking. Freaked me out because both my parents smoked. Smile. You joke, but back in the 70s and 80s there were billboards that would say cancer cures smoking. A bit controversial, but I remember being shocked even as a kid. I didn't understand it, and my dad explained it, because if you smoke too much you get cancer and then you die and then you're no longer smoking. Freaked me out because both my parents smoked. Smile. Every male on the planet dies at the same time for some unknown reason. Throughout the run, there were some theories established that involved science, technology, magic, and religion, but it was left open-ended and never quite answered. It throws the entire Earth into disarray. The book covers lots of topics actually as a result of this massive incident, such as politics, history, and culture, as well as how an all-female-led society copes and rebuilds. The main character is Yorick Brown, an American escape artist and the lone survivor of the Y chromosome genocide. Since he's the only surviving male left on Earth, he becomes a great subject of interest for the government. But really, all he wants to do, despite how fucked up the world he lives in has already become, is to find a way back to Australia so he can reunite with his long-distance girlfriend, Beth. Throughout Yorick's journey, he's escorted by Agent 355 and encounters a bunch of groups that have various reactions to learning that he was able to survive. Some see him as hope, some see him as a miracle, while some see him as a remnant of a distant and disgusting past that should be left behind. It's an awesome series, 60 issues long, definitely worth a read. Edit, thanks to everyone adding in some details about the story. I tried making it as short and simple as possible so it can be easier to digest for those unfamiliar with the book. I'm sorry if I left out some fan favorite stuff like Campus and the male capuchin monkey survivor. Anyway, appreciate the discussion this thread's generated about why. Okay, but semi-seriously, yes, lost power for over a week, and not gonna lie, it felt like it required effort to hang on to the concept of civilized society. Didn't help that we're unwell and septic and lost water and sewer at the same time. Cell tower dropped after like 4 hours, so no power, water, sewer, internet, phone, or anything else. It's amusing for the first day when you keep hitting the light switches and nothing happens, or turn on a tap and nothing coming out, or pull out your phone and having no connection to anything. Pretty quickly those habits are gone and replaced with a general feeling that society's influence on your life went with them. We were alone in the woods, totally isolated from friends, family, news, or any other reminder of the greater society we live in. Even after I got the generator jury-rigged in so we could use the toilet again and the satellite internet was up, it was still temporary. The precariousness of the situation, constantly only being a day or two away from running out of gas, and with it power, water, sewer, internet was constantly top of mind. People behaved admirably, and I did my best to keep busy helping. But I'd be lying if I said the survival part of my brain wasn't slowly creeping in and figuring out how, left to fend for ourselves, I'd make sure me and my kid didn't end up on the bottom of the pile. That quote, "every society is 3 meals away from anarchy," was definitely front of mind. Which is all to say, while nobody'd forget language in 12 months, I'd be shocked if it took a whole year for roving gangs of marauders to appear. This is what bothers me about so many apocalyptic scenarios. Has it been 12 generations since the bombs fell? Nope, about 18 months. Most of the world still has power and running water, but don't go down Lafayette Street, they're all cannibals. The Walking Dead comes to mind too. Fucking A, so much of that just got so dumb. I think the thing that annoys me is that the wacky crazy people factions are treated as set dressing, even though their devolution would make for a very interesting story. Like with The Walking Dead, we get season after season of people being violent and ruthless but still normal. Despite their survival of the fittest mentality, they dress and speak normally. It makes it seem like these wacky factions voluntarily decided to be weird as fuck apocalypse people lol. And when it comes to the LARPers with the pet tiger, that's pretty much exactly what happened. It's something I really loved with Reign of Fire. It's basically set in that middle period where you have a generation of people who can still remember the old world and a generation who are being raised in the new normal. Like, it was really cool to watch them perform the story of Star Wars for the kids like it's some ancient legend. Not a great movie by any means, but the world building was much more interesting than 90% of apocalypse movies, shows. This is the best answer to the main question. The comic is a great and fun read. It covers everything from the temporary collapse of services to different groups' approach to the calamity. But this makes me also want to recommend the great film, Children of Men, which is a different scenario. Women stop reproducing, and captures some similar ideas. Also, it has amazing cinematography that will be studied for decades. Keep in mind the first issue was published in 2002, so some of what was true then wouldn't necessarily apply today. But nations that permit or require women to serve in combat suddenly become powerhouses over countries that don't. Apparently only a handful of countries. Again, the case in 2002, so maybe different now, allowed women to serve on submarines, so suddenly those countries control the oceans. Religions like Islam that mostly only allow men to be imams, or Catholicism that universally only allow men to be priests, in a moment suddenly lose their influence, whereas religions like Judaism that have plenty of women rabbis become more powerful. Most of the world's truckers, pilots, mechanics die in an instant, but the majority of the world's agricultural force remains in place. And in the United States, the highest ranking woman in politics is a fairly low-ranking cabinet member. Again, it was 2002, and suddenly, due to the order of succession, she's President of the United States. And that's just what happens on a grand, global scale. All sorts of scenarios play out on the human and personal level. It's truly a fantastic series, very much worth reading, and at only 10 fairly slim books you could enjoy it over a weekend, even. The first issue was published in 2002. So some of what was true then wouldn't necessarily apply today. Wow, I never considered how much has changed since 2002. Now I kinda want BKV to reboot the series every couple decades, so that we can compare how the premise unfolds with different starting conditions each time. Ooh. And he can combine it with an Ex Machina sequel where we visit each new Y the Last Man version as a different timeline. I fucking love myself, but I have a tendency to make myself angry, so that's what I'm going to do. Update, shouldn't have done that. Now I'm angry. Edit, people, when I said so that's what I'm going to do, I meant I was going to sort the comments by controversial. I don't know what you're getting out of this comment, but it's the wrong idea. For starters, I assume a fuck ton of the remaining women on the planet would die due to accidents caused by the sudden disappearances. For example, anyone flying with male pilots is likely dead. Anyone on the road will likely be fatally injured in car accidents, anyone having surgery could potentially be screwed, etc. There'd also likely be a good number of suicides, given that many people would likely assume they're facing the end times. Past that, it's either get good or die. Welcome to the laws of the jungle. Oh, and sperm banks would allow the male population to be restored somewhat over generations. Everyone here is talking a lot about gender distribution in various fields, but no one's talking about how the sudden disappearance of half the world's population would have pretty much the same impact no matter how it goes down. The specific details of which services go down and when might vary based on which people go poof. But the reality is that 50% of the world's population disappearing is going to cause absolute chaos in transportation, and everything relies on transportation. Imagine what happens when half the cars on the interstate no longer have a driver. Vehicles slam into walls, barriers, other vehicles, 50% disappear, but likely another 50% of the people on the road are now maimed or dead. The interstate system and virtually all major roadways are now utterly useless, and likely will be for a very long time. Power is taken out in the process, as thousands upon thousands of vehicles slam into substations, power poles, and other critical infrastructure. Of those who are unharmed, anyone not in the immediate vicinity of an agricultural center is likely dead within weeks or months, save for pockets of individuals who have the survival skills to make do, but their standard of living is abysmal compared to what modern society is used to. Depression abounds. Clans develop rapidly, with a lot of conflict between rival groups. Firearms are one of the few things that still work, and countries where firearms are plentiful become an absolute bloodbath as the ruthless consolidate their power. Agricultural centers in developed nations are suddenly the wealthiest, most powerful places in their part of the world, forcing a very sudden shift in power dynamics that is likely to end in bloodshed. Unfortunately, so much of modern agriculture is built on technologies that won't function now, and some of these centers will fail to adapt quickly enough. Human progress is ultimately set back several decades, if not centuries. Libraries that survive contain enough information to let society rebuild, eventually. But in the meantime, it's not pretty. This entire thread is funny for one simple issue. Let's say you need 100% of staff at all times in nuclear plants. Let's say 50% men, 50% women. Each know their station and, for fairness, one other station. If men disappeared, the reactor would melt down before they could learn, train someone else to handle the other 50% workload. No sexism, no hate. A simple fact. If 50% of the population vanished instantly, something would explode and cause a catastrophic event. Boats and planes would crash everywhere. Fires would spread all over the place. When the power went out, there would be riots and looting. Like you said, something would blow up, melt down, or spread disease in some massively detrimental way. A lot of talk in this thread is about things that would happen after everything fell into complete chaos. Honestly, I think the same would happen in a Thanos snap situation. It's not even a men-women thing. Same thing as what would happen if we disappeared every woman in the world. Civilization would collapse within a few months. If you removed a random sample of 50% of the population, it would be bad enough. 100% of either sex would be worse due to the concentration of essential specialists working in fields dominated by one sex or the other.